Now, this is based on new reporting by Politico that provides some specific names as to which Republicans could be serving on Biden's cabinet. And I do want to note that some of these names have been vetted, meaning that the Biden campaign has begun the vetting process. And this isn't just some rumor. This appears to be a list of serious contenders in Biden's cabinet. So one person close to the Biden transition said it remains a priority to have options from different parts of the ideological spectrum for the former vice president to consider.
Really?
No, it really shouldn't be a priority. If the whole point is to get Donald Trump out of office because he's been so disastrous, and if Donald Trump represents the Republican Party now, meaning what Republican voters want, you look at the polling, Republican voters love Trump. Why would you want to bring in that ideological perspective to your cabinet? Makes no sense, but let me give you some specific names. Among the names being floated for possible Biden cabinet posts are Meg Whitman, the CEO of Quibi and former CEO of eBay, and former Ohio Governor John Kasich, who by the way is one of the names being vetted right now, both of whom spoke at August's Democratic National Convention. Massachusetts GOP Governor Charlie Baker and former Senator Jeff Flake, both Republicans, have also been mentioned, as has former Representative Charlie Dent from Pennsylvania, who resigned from Congress in 2018 and became a lobbyist. Lots of fun there. Now, Jake, before you jump in, I just want to remind you all of what the voting record was for Jeff Flake. Before he decided that he wouldn't run again, he voted along Donald Trump, or voted along with Donald Trump 81.3% of the time, and that's according to analysis from 538. Representative Charlie Dent voted along with Donald Trump 93% of the time. But we got to get Trump out of office. It's really important. It's a crisis. Anyway, go ahead, Jake.
So there's several different things here. First of all, don't tell us how important it is to beat Republicans, and then at the same time tell us, I can't wait to put Republicans in my government. That makes no sense at all. And I know in Washington world that makes sense, because that's how else would we get deals to cut taxes for the rich, unless corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans work together. Well, we don't want those deals. The Democratic voters don't want those deals, and the American people don't want those deals, and I'm basing that on polling. Second of all, look at how much they help Republican framing. Oh, no, they're still moderate and reasonable Republicans. Republicans are totally moderate and reasonable. It's just Donald Trump that's the problem. But Charlie Dent, who agreed with Trump 93% of the time, that's a fact. That's not an opinion. That is not, hey, Charlie Dent went and looked respectable on television. Charlie Dent went and said something slightly critical of Donald Trump 2 or 3 times in his life. No, he voted. Actions matter way more than anything else. He voted with Trump 93% of the time. That's wonderful. I can't wait to put him in the cabinet. When you put someone in the cabinet, you know what it means? It means theoretically that they are the most qualified person in the country for that job. So you would be saying, I don't think there's a single Democrat in the country who's more qualified than someone who voted with Donald Trump 93% of the time. That's an insane thing to say if you're a Democrat. God, they know nothing about politics, nothing. So, and you say, hey, well, Cenk, come on. The guy's about to be president. How could you say he knows nothing about politics? Because over the long term, the Democrats constantly reinforce Republican framing. That is why during the Obama years and the beginning of the Trump years, over a decade, they lost 1,000 seats, 1,000 seats nationally. And they have every demographic advantage. When you look at the polling, they have massive advantages on almost every policy issue. The Democrats, with the positions that they hold, almost cannot lose national elections. But yet somehow they managed to lose to Donald Trump the first time around because they're grotesquely incompetent. And now they come around and go, I'm gonna fill my cabinet with Republicans after I asked you to give me hundreds of millions of dollars to defeat Republicans. It's insanity. Now, one more thing at least. So you're telling me you're looking across the ideological spectrum. So is Bob Rice going to be the Treasury Secretary?
Yeah, right.
How about a moderate progressive? Elizabeth Warren, is she gonna be Treasury Secretary? Is she gonna be Attorney General? Name a progressive. Okay, here, let's have a lot of fun. Senator Nina Turner, Are you considering her for the cabinet? If I said that to the Biden team, I know what the reaction would be. It would be, Nina Turner, we would never consider her. Well, she's one of the leading progressives in the country. You poll progressives right now. I challenge you. I bet you she comes in the top. I think she comes in top 2, but let's be generous and say top 3. Okay, so you would never, ever consider someone who's incredibly popular with progressives. But Republicans who vote with Trump 90% of the time, oh, come on in. Biden administration is open for business. If on top of all this, they name a lobbyist / Democratic consultant, especially a lobbyist, someone who works for corporations as his chief of staff, then you'll know. And it's not us progressives. It'll be Biden's team declaring war on progressives and saying, no, we're gonna stuff the cabinet with Republicans and lobbyists. And we were kidding. We're never going to do. All we're going to do is, yes, we'll protect democracy. We're not fascists. So you dodged the bullet on that one. But everything else, business as usual. We're going to go back to the corporate machine, crushing all of you until Democrats lose the next election.
No, I mean, look, this outcome is worse than what we experienced during the Obama administration. As you guys can all remember, during the Obama administration, we had a president who was overwhelmingly concerned with criticism from the right wing. He was constantly trying to appease them. He was overwhelmingly concerned about how Fox News was covering him. And so now we get Trump, and some people were under the impression that Trump would be so terrible that it would create some sort of revolutionary moment in the country where we would move toward progressivism. But what we're gonna get with Biden is actually gonna be worse than what we experienced with Obama, because Biden is starting to flirt with the idea of bringing in like Bush era Republicans. Did we all forget about how awful the Bush administration was? Now, the names that I mentioned as possible cabinet picks, I'm sure were influenced by the fine people over at the Lincoln Project. Again, Bush era Republicans who very much hate Donald Trump, but did some pretty disastrous things in promoting Bush's policies when he was in charge. And so I'm worried that, yes, we're going to in some ways stop the bleeding when it comes to the dismantling of our democracy. But when it comes to policies, Cenk, I think you're 100% right. These names that are being floated right now essentially promote an ongoing war between the neoliberal faction of the Democratic Party and the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. And it's degrading. It's degrading as a progressive to read names like this and then have someone like Joe Biden and other establishment Democrats package it up as, no, this is all about unity. I don't want to engage in unity with bad people, right? Would you want to engage in unity with like serial killers? No, there are good people and bad people, reasonable people, unreasonable people. Why do we want unity with unreasonable people? It makes no sense.
Okay, and further school of keeping it real. John Kasich nearly won the Republican nomination in the last election in 2016, not 20 years ago. He came in the top 3, arguably top 2, depending on how you look at it. He almost beat Trump. So you are considering bringing the Republicans, one of the Republican standard bearers in the country, into your cabinet. And then think about how that affects 2024. Likely Biden is not going to run for re-election in 2024. Then what did you do? You set up John Kasich perfectly so that he could win not only the Republican nomination, but the presidency. Who would be that monumentally stupid? And by the way, Kamala Harris, hello, anybody on Kamala's team? I know if it's a progressive, you guys are out there trying to make sure they don't get any cabinet positions so they won't challenge Kamala Harris when she runs in 2024. Hello, McFly, Kasich is gonna run against you. Why would you put him in the cabinet? God, these people are unbelievable. But to be fair to them, Obama put a Republican in the cabinet. He reached across the aisle. That's why he got so many votes from Republicans. As you all remember, 0 votes, none, 0. They tried to kill it. Not only did they not vote for the Affordable Care Act, they tried to kill it over 50 times while Obama was president, and another 20 afterwards. And so, and what did Obama get for reaching out across the aisle and for putting Republicans in his cabinet? We all know that it was nothing. So why would you repeat that mistake? and help Republican framing and help Republican reputations while you're doing it. Look, one of our members wrote in a funny comment. He's got a funny handle too. His handle is nipple pierced Jenkins skinny jeans. Makes me uncomfortable every time I say it, but you could have me say those things too if you're a member, tyt.com/join. So anyway, he wrote in, hope Trump won't be in Biden cabinet. Team of rivals. Republicans are so reasonable. We gotta beat Trump. And so if you're willing to put someone who agrees with Trump 90% of the time in the cabinet, I don't know, is Biden considering Trump? I know he would never consider real progressives in the cabinet. God forbid, God forbid. That's his base. The ideological spectrum ends before we get to his base, but it extends all the way into Trump's base. Well played, Democrats, genius move.
All right, well, let's move on to some other news, including what's happening with the stimulus negotiations. Not so great. So Trump is begging the Senate GOP to pass economic stimulus, and he's specific about wanting to pass something that's more robust than what House Democrats have approved. They approved their stimulus package months ago to the tune of $2.2 trillion. Now, during a recent interview with Fox and Friends, Trump tried to make his case, even though Mitch McConnell and Senate GOP are very much against this type of spending. Take a look.
What could you tell us? Because Mitch McConnell isn't exactly on board with those negotiations.
Well, he'll be on board if something comes. But let me just explain that it's very simple. I want to do it even bigger than the Democrats. Now, not every Republican agrees with me, but they will. But I want to do it even bigger than the Democrats. We want to do it, but Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to do it. We'll see whether or not she changes her mind. But we want to do it.
Mr. President, she's at 2.4 trillion, and you want to go bigger than that? John Thune says
she's at 2.2.
Okay.
And I would like to go. I would be willing to go more. She doesn't want to do anything until after the election because she thinks that helps her. I actually think it helps us because everyone knows that she's the one that's breaking up the deal.
Senator Thune says he doesn't want to even go close to 2 trillion. Would you pass this with mostly Democratic votes? Would you pass it with mostly Democratic votes?
I'd take all the votes you could get, whether it's Democrat or Republican.
Now, of course, Donald Trump is panicking because his reelection bid doesn't look so great, and possibly passing stimulus could help him. At least that's what he thinks. Now, again, Mitch McConnell has been against Donald Trump's version of stimulus. That proposal, we still don't know specific details about. We just know that Trump wants to spend $1.8 trillion. John Thune isn't the only member of the Senate GOP who has spoken out against that type of spending. Mitt Romney was also asked about it, and Mitt Romney said that price tag related to Trump's proposal is much too high. Also, Senate Republicans on Tuesday will try to advance a standalone paycheck protection program bill to help small businesses reeling from the coronavirus pandemic before moving on Wednesday to vote on the same $500 billion stimulus bill that Democrats blocked last month. So Mitch McConnell has been very clear in stating that the only type of legislation he's willing to support related to stimulus is the $500 billion proposal that specifically helps businesses. But McConnell also noted today that if Steve Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi negotiate and come to some sort of deal, he will allow for the Senate to vote on that legislation. However, we haven't heard anything from Pelosi and Mnuchin yet. We know that they were still negotiating today, but we still have no word as to whether or not they've come to any type of agreement.
All right, so let's be clear about the facts. Pelosi's at 2.2 trillion, as Trump admitted there. Trump, last we heard, was at 1.8 trillion, so he is not higher than Pelosi. It's just not true. Second of all, Mitch McConnell is at 500 million. We're not the ones saying that. Mitch McConnell's saying that. He's saying, I want to introduce a bill that's only 500 billion. And that's it. So he's nowhere near 2.2 trillion. So whose fault is it that they don't have a deal? Look, people think, oh, you guys are biased against Donald Trump. No, we're biased towards the facts. In this case, the person guilty is unquestionably Mitch McConnell. It's not Trump. So, and you know why? Trump's got an election coming up. He wants to send out $1,200 checks with his signature on them. That's not complicated. And he's thinking, what the hell are Republicans not doing this for? I mean, what are you guys, nuts? Let's go bribe people right before the election. How stupid are you? And on that, Trump is right. And I think part of the reason Pelosi's hesitating is because of the same reason. Are we really gonna let Trump send out checks with his names on it? Like literally, as people are about to vote, they get a check in the mail with Trump's name that says $1,200. Is it because of Trump? No, it's the whole government. But you know how optics work, and people don't follow all the details of who's responsible, et cetera, on this stuff. But look, if you're wondering, as I am, and I asked a guest recently on the conversation about this, what the hell is Mitch McConnell doing? Why would he hurt not only Trump's chances of winning, but his own senators who are in very vulnerable seats? If the Republican senators block this, they're nuts. Well, as usual, the donors. Now, the donors want the money to go to businesses. That's why there's like $500 billion to businesses. Great. To actual Americans, no. We vote no. Okay, now I think that's insane because I think it'll crash the markets, it'll hurt themselves, but there's no end to the infinite greed. And so they don't want anything going to the average American, they want it going all to business. And I saw Elon Musk tweet against the stimulus saying no more for the workers and for the rest of the economy. I don't know why they have that position when I think it's absolutely mental. But according to the analysts, at least 20 Republican senators will vote no if it's higher than 500 billion. So even Mitt Romney's saying, well, I'm not comfortable with 1.8 trillion. I think it's too much. So have at it, House Republicans, kill it. We'll pass it right after the election, okay? But understand that if there's one party responsible for making sure you're not getting any relief right now, it is indisputably the Republican Party.
All right, well, we got to take a break. When we come back, we have more news for you guys, including Donald Trump basically admitting to a felony bribery, and then ExxonMobil trying to come to his rescue. It's one of my favorite stories of the day. And then Chief Justice John Roberts saves the day when it comes to expanding voting rights in Pennsylvania. We have that and more when we return.
TYT just crossed 14 billion views. Yes, that's the world population, almost ×2. And we have over 19 million subscribers, too strong. I love you guys. Look, we're not backed by billionaires like other mainstream media outlets or the right-wing outlets that are almost all backed by them. We're able to press on and continue our coverage because of you guys. Your small dollar donations to our fundraising campaign at tyt.com/go have a huge impact. And you know what they do? They create real change. Contributions of any amount supports our ability to continue to tell stories that often don't get covered by the likes of MSNBC, CNN, or Fox News. With your support, we're the 4th news network, and you know we keep it real. No matter how large or small the contribution, you help us beat the billionaires and all the other media outlets by going to tyt.com/go.
They're afraid of me when I jog.
They're afraid of me when I drive.
They're afraid of me.
They're afraid of me.
They're afraid of us when we kneel.
But they're even more afraid.
But they're even more afraid when we own our own businesses.
When we build.
When we support each other.
When we vote.
When we vote.
If black men vote at the rate we did in 2012, we could change the election.
Defend the black vote.
For more information, go to defendtheblackvote.org.
Do democracy. Vote. You got it. Use it.
Vote. Demand democracy, advocate for criminal, social, and environmental justice for all.
Engage in democracy.
Run for office.
You can be mayor, governor, president. Just run.
Democracy is powered by people like you and me.
Vote, advocate, engage. Visit naacp.org or text DEMAND to 40649 for more information.
All right, lots of comments. You guys are the best.
I'm gonna read a few comments from our members.
Mr. Methuselah says on YouTube, super chat, thanks for all the important work you do for TYT for the movement.
Do you know who had the first super chat when I got back from vacation? You won't be surprised to find out. Rob Shively, what do you know? Rob says, rejoice for Dragon Daddy has returned.
This question sent to us by Izzy Sanchez Jr. Is it me or is Meghan McCain talking as fast as Ben Shapiro? Is that the way the right tries to look smart and intellectual? Well, yes.
Michael Nathan writes it on Twitter. Did Anna choose Cenk's outfit today? I'm sure it wasn't Cenk himself. Man Bun Jenkins Skinny Jeans says, so now Anna has pointed out, okay, that's his handle.
T. Joyce, 1971, saying Donald Trump is good at pulling out of things, NAFTA, the Iran deal, NATO. It's just too bad Fred Trump didn't.
A vote is a voice.
A voice is power. A voice not spoken cannot be heard.
A voice not heard
soon goes silent.
I have a voice.
You have a voice.
Together, we are loud.
If you stand for anything,
raise your voice. Power not used.
It's power lost.
Power not shared
is not democracy. I have power. You have power.
What matters to you must matter to them.
Claim your power.
A vote not counted
Cannot make a change.
A vote suppressed is a voice silenced.
I have a vote.
You have a vote.
Let's have them counted.
For America to share your values,
Use your vote.
your voice,
Your power.
Your vote.
Back on Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you. Aspirations at it again, doing something fun for you guys. They're putting together a contest so that we can pick 4 random people that have aspiration accounts to talk to me after the election. We're gonna do a little panel off air, just me and you guys, and talk about what happened in the election and the future, especially for progressives. So if you already have an aspiration account, you don't have to do anything. You're automatically entered. If you don't, aspiration.com/TYT. And that way you save money and you save the planet. And we might talk after the election and do a fun little panel together, okay? So aspiration.com/TYT. All right, now thanking some of the members that just joined up on YouTube. Janice Schmidt, Sharon Kiley, Barles Charkley, that's funny, Dana Engelbrecht. So they just hit the join button below on YouTube and signed up, and we appreciate it. Now let me go to our members on our website. No More Trigonometry says, yeah, and they told us Bernie wasn't a real Democrat. Meanwhile, Biden is welcoming Republicans into his cabinet with open arms. Okay, that hashtag facts. And Susan R26 says, Ohio had a constitutional ban on gay marriage, and Kasich fought to keep it there. By the way, this was tweeted by the Democrats' Twitter account back in 2015. Oh, Kasich, you want to make sure that gay people don't have the same rights as straight people. Welcome to Biden's cabinet. We're at least considering it, vetting it, etc. Progressives, no thank you, not interested. We're not that ideologically diverse. And finally, Chris Durand, in the member section at least, said, stares at Biden in $250 donation to tyt.com/go. And then he says, F around and find out, establishment Dems. I love that. So, hey, look, man, our job is to hold them accountable. You like that, you support us, we support you. That's how it works. tyt.com/go. Let's take a look at the thermometer real quick. Trying to get to 200,000. Hey, we were trying to get to 61,000 at the end of the segment or the show yesterday. We're at 61,854. Let's try to get to 62 by the end of the segment. That would be amazing. Thank you guys. And last couple here are from Super Chat. Demian wrote in, TDR shirt arrived today. You guys are awesome. Wrong, Dragon Squad. You're awesome. And last one is Mark Keister. It's really easy to contact the Biden campaign. Maybe we all should. Of course, they keep sending you emails to raise money, right? So why don't you send them an email back saying, you know what? How about you stop considering putting Republicans on your cabinet? Maybe they'll get the message. All right, Anna.
All right. Donald Trump loves to publicly confess to crimes, and that was certainly the case during a recent rally in Arizona where he detailed felony bribery. Take a look.
The greatest fundraiser in history. All I have to do is call up the head of every Wall Street firm, head of every major company, head of every major energy company. Do me a favor, send me 10 million for my campaign. Yes, sir. They say the only thing is, why didn't you ask for more, sir? I would be the greatest fundraiser in history. Don't forget, I'm not bad at that stuff anyway, and I'm president. So I call some guy, the head of Exxon. I call the head of Exxon. I don't know, but I'll use a couple. Hi, how you doing? How's energy coming? When are you doing the exploration? Oh, you need a couple of permits, huh? Okay, but I call the head of Exxon. I say, I'd love to send me $25 million for the campaign. Absolutely, sir. Why didn't you ask? Would you like some more? And if I make the call, now if people make the call, it's different, but if I made the call, I will hit a home run every single call. I would raise $1 billion in one day if I wanted to.
Look at me, I'm the best at getting bribed. I'm the best at being corrupt. I like the fact that his supporters applauded that. It's like they don't listen to anything he's saying. He's literally telling you, I am the best at getting bribed. And what he detailed there is quid pro quo bribery, which, to be fair to Trump, he does have a lot of experience with that. He got impeached for it when he withheld congressionally appropriated funding toward Ukraine, unless Ukraine announced some sham investigation into his political rival, Joe Biden. Again, he got impeached for that. But of course, later, ExxonMobil had to clean up Donald Trump's mess, and they tweeted the following: "We are aware of the president's statement regarding a hypothetical call with our CEO, and just so we're all clear, it never happened. But we should take a look at what does happen on a regular basis when it comes to legalized bribery in this country. Because Trump is crushing Joe Biden in campaign donations from the embattled oil and gas industry. The president and outside groups aligned with him have raised nearly $13 million from individuals at oil and gas companies. That easily dwarfs the $976,000 the industry has sent to Joe Biden. Trump has touted an agenda of American energy dominance, marked by cutting environmental regulations and pushing energy exports. That type of quid pro quo happens all the time, every single day in America. The only thing that makes it illegal is if you call it what it is publicly and acknowledge that you're being bribed. If you're not saying those words overtly, it's totally fine.
Okay, first funny part of this is, I'd call him up, how is energy coming? What does that mean? How is energy coming? It's an unsolvable riddle. Anyway, so now on the important stuff. He says, well, I mean, it's a hypothetical. Of course, he's not gonna call them up and ask them how energy is coming, and they're not going to send him checks. Except they did, as Anna just showed you. They sent him $13 million in checks. And he did open up public land for drilling. And he did give them literally every single policy they asked for, literally. But the $13 million that went to his campaign from them had nothing to do with the policies. That's what we're told. By the way, we're not just told that by Trump and the Republicans, we're also told that by the Democrats and the mainstream media. No, the $13 million from oil and gas companies are because they care about our health and they just wanted to be charitable. Who is maniacally stupid enough to believe that? Even QAnon wouldn't believe that. Nobody would believe that. Unless you work in Washington, you're like, oh yes sir, ExxonMobil giving 13 million and the other oil and gas companies. Of course they did that for everybody's health because they care so much about the American people. That's why they give $13 million. No, it's a bribe. Everybody knows it's a bribe. wolf-pack.com/join. Fix it, get an amendment. Supreme Court option is dead. Your only choice is wolf-pack.com. So anyway, I mean, and the crowd goes nuts. Remember his slogan in 2016, probably the single most helpful thing to him during a campaign was drain the swamp. Now they're basically chanting, fill the swamp, fill the swamp. Okay, now we say all of this as if like any of this is hypothetical or theoretical. Remind me who Donald Trump's Secretary of State was. Oh right, the CEO of ExxonMobil. I'm not kidding. Rex Tillerson, his first Secretary of State, was the CEO of ExxonMobil. So it's not, and how would he know that he could do that with Exxon? Because he already did. If you can't see that, you're blind and you're in a cult, and you might be in one of two cults. Cult 45, Trump's cult. Oh, when Trump takes bribes, it's the best bribes, the best bribes. He's so good at taking bribes, right? Congratulations. Or you're in a mainstream media cult, where you're like, no, I don't see any bribes. No, I think all the politicians are honorable. I think they're wonderful people who are having ideological debates. And so I think tens of millions of dollars given to politicians is not at all corrupt. Everybody just cares about the American people so much. That's why they're doing it. Okay, I mean, these guys claim to be in news. They claim to be in news.
Yeah, look, Cenk, look, the news doesn't really ever talk about bribery, right? I mean,
you know why?
Because they don't want to tell the truth and they don't want to draw attention to it because it's demonstrable. Like you can see the quid pro quo bribery happening in politics every single day. And it's a virus that has infected both political parties, right? Like in this context, we're talking about the fossil fuel industry. And yes, Republicans have done away with environmental regulations. That's why the fossil fuel industry overwhelmingly gives to Republicans versus Democrats. But they give to Democrats as well, which is part of the reason why Joe Biden won't sign on to the Green New Deal, right? It's not because of ideological differences. See, when you have money in politics, ideological differences don't matter because at the end of the day, the only thing that does matter is where the money's coming from. And when you have corporate cash flowing in, all of a sudden the ideologies seem pretty similar to one another when it comes to the issues that matter the most. And look, Cenk, you mentioned how Trump said he was going to drain the swamp. And I think it's really important to always share the receipts with our audience. So here's a fun compilation video that J.R. Jackson put together.
If I'm elected president, we are going to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. We are going to drain the swamp of corruption in Washington, D.C. It is indeed time to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. You can send us Republicans like Mike Braun to drain the swamp. We're going to Washington, D.C. to drain the swamp. Absolutely. When we win on November 8th, we are going to Washington, D.C., and we will drain the swamp. You probably heard me say it. Drain the swamp.
He, of course, left out the rest of the sentence. And then fill it with ExxonMobil oil. Fill it with ExxonMobil oil. I like how ExxonMobil did that tweet to clean it up. They're used to toxic cleanups. And guys, maybe the most important part of the story is what Anna alluded to. Yeah, they give $13 million to Trump, the oil and gas companies, but they gave about $1 million to Biden. And what did Biden say during the last debates? I won't end fracking. There's no way I'm gonna end fracking, okay? Look at how cheaply they buy the Democrats. Oh, the Republicans will give a lot of money to, we want them to win. But you guys be good boys and girls, okay? I'll just bribe you less than 10% when I bribe them. And you'll do as you're told anyway, you're a Democrat. And anyone in news that isn't talking about this as the main motivating factor, let alone any motivating factor, doesn't actually do news. And by the way, that is part of the reason why there's so many conspiracy theories out there now. People have become nuts because they know one thing is I can't trust the news because the news tells me that the politicians are honorable people. And I see them with my own eyes taking millions of dollars in bribes. I see it. And every news person goes on TV and says that is not a bribe. No, they're great people. And so when you lie to the American people like that 1,000 times over, 1,000,000 times over, you shouldn't be surprised that they lost faith in you. Wolf-pack.com/join. Look, the reason I mention Wolfpack, they're not just trying to get money out of politics and end this corruption. They believe in a constitutional amendment to do that. They're one of the very few groups on any side. They're nonpartisan. American Promise is another one, and Move to Amend. Those folks believe in an amendment. All the other Democratic groups are like, a convention, no way. To put together an amendment to change the Constitution to stop the corruption, no way, no way. Nancy Pelosi told us that corruption is awesome. We won't support any of that. So all the elites agree, corruption is awesome. The rest of us despise it, including, by the way, originally the Trump voters in 2016. You should remember that when now Donald Trump is celebrating the corruption that he's the head of in DC.
Well, we do have some good news today, so let's get to that story. The Supreme Court has upheld the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's ruling on ballots for this upcoming election. This is an incredibly important ruling, and luckily Chief Justice John Roberts joined liberal justices in the Supreme Court in voting in favor of upholding the state Supreme Court decision on ballots. So let me give you the details on what that means. Well, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled in favor of Democratic state lawmakers in September, finding that mail-in ballots received within 3 days of November 3rd must be counted so long as the envelopes are postmarked by November 3rd. Of course, that's the day of the election. The ruling also said that ballot envelopes received by November 6th that are not postmarked at all would also be counted unless a preponderance of the evidence demonstrates that it was mailed after election day. So the point here is, as long as it's postmarked by election day, as long as there's reason to believe that the ballots were submitted before election day or by election day, then those are ballots that should be counted. Of course, state Republicans are super salty about it, and you have other conservatives like the clown that throws the CPAC event every year, throwing a hissy fit about it as well. But before I get to him, Cenk, what do you think about this ruling?
Okay, there's only one arguable part of that decision by the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, which is, hey, should we accept the ballots if there's no postmark, right? If it's postmarked by November 3rd, that means they voted by November 3rd. Why would you not accept those ballots? If they voted by November 3rd and you got it on November 4th, why would you throw those out? That doesn't make any sense. Whether it's a Democrat or Republican vote, or by the way, a vote from the military, sometimes those take longer to come because they're serving abroad. Why would you throw them in the trash can? Are you nuts? So, okay, whether you accept them, even if they're not postmarked within 3 days, okay, that's an arguable position. And I could be convinced either way of that, okay? Now, in this case, the State Supreme Court for Pennsylvania considered it and decided, no, that part is also okay. The Republicans say, no, don't accept any of them. We don't care if they're military. We don't care if they voted by November 3rd, burn them. We don't want the votes. Because mail-in ballots, especially in Pennsylvania, are now coming much more predominantly from registered Democrats. So they're like, burn them. Make sure those votes don't count. Gee, I wonder who's on the right side of this issue. And so then when it goes to the Supreme Court, 4 Republican justices, yes, they're Republicans, let's please stop. Spare me on, oh no, they're neutral and arbiters and blah, blah, blah. It just so happened that the 4 out of the 5 Republican justices decide, oh yeah, burn them, burn them, burn them, who cares, don't count the votes. To be fair to them, there's a Supreme Court precedent of 5 Republican justices saying, oh, the Florida votes, do not under any circumstances recount them. Burn the votes, we hate democracy. We just want to call the Republican the winner, whether he actually won or not. By the way, if you recounted all the votes in Florida, Bush would have lost the Electoral College and Gore would have been president. Supreme Court justices have already stolen one election for the Republican Party. The other 4 justices were on board for stealing this one as well. Pennsylvania is perhaps the most critical swing state. John Roberts amazingly said no. Now, I don't know why he said no. The court didn't clarify. They just explained who voted in which direction. But if you're a conservative, what's the number one thing that you believe in? And maybe it's top 3, maybe it's number 1. States' rights, right? So it is the right of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to rule on a Pennsylvania law. There's no disputing that, there's 0 dispute. So John Roberts likely thought, well, this is what I've been saying my whole life. This is what my colleagues have been saying our whole lives. So of course it's a state issue. The other 4 Supreme Court justices that are Republicans go, no, you're an idiot. We don't care about states' rights. We don't care about any principles. We don't care at all. We just want the Republicans to win so that we can get more power and, by the way, impose our religion on everyone else. John Roberts trying to actually care about legal principles. That's funny. Well, now it's 4-4. By the way, Amy Coney Barrett gets on. Good night, Irene. If they get her on before the election, there's a pretty good chance they'll just flat out steal the election.
Oh, no.
Because she'll vote with the other 4, no question, no question. They say, oh, the ballots we didn't count yet, past election day. Amy Coney Barrett agrees. put them all in a dumpster, light them on fire. We don't believe in democracy. Ha ha, we stole a second election from you. So that's what's headed down the pike. And the Democrats, as usual, with their total incompetence, have done zero, nothing to stop Barrett, nothing.
Of course not. Dianne Feinstein gave Lindsey Graham a giant hug and said that the confirmation hearings were among the best that she's ever been part of, because she's a clown and she doesn't actually represent even liberal ideology. I mean, Dianne Feinstein is just a conservative. Let's keep it real. But no, Cenk, you brought up Amy Coney Barrett, and if they get her confirmed prior to the election, what that would mean. In a related story, Mitch McConnell had a conversation with Donald Trump and urged him to not try to pass stimulus before the election, because he believes that engaging in the stimulus debate will derail them from confirming Amy Coney Barrett. Why do you think they're so desperate to confirm Amy Coney Barrett? I mean, look, I'm speculating as to how that conversation went down, but I would speculate that Mitch McConnell is telling Trump, look, I know you're freaking out about your chances of getting reelected, and that's why you want to pass this stimulus bill. But don't worry, we can go ahead and get this conservative confirmed at the Supreme Court. We'll just steal the election. Don't worry about stimulus. So I really do think that that conversation was related to, Amy Coney Barrett and the fact that they just want to make sure that they get another conservative judge confirmed. So when push comes to shove and they're debating whether the election results are valid, of course, the Supreme Court, with that conservative majority, would vote in favor of Trump. At least that's the calculation I think they're making. But one final thing about this story. So Matt Schlapp, who is the head of the American Conservative Union, he's also the person who puts together CPAC every year. It's that conservative gathering. Tweeted in response to Roberts' decision, and he just says, impeach Roberts. But it's not the first time he has suggested that Chief Justice John Roberts get impeached. Previously, this is a tweet from July 1st, he wrote the following: if John Roberts is going to act like a politician, the ACU conservatives should start grading his votes like a politician. He lied to the president, the Senate, and the country. He's imposing his judgment over the law, which is despotism. So what's amazing is the following tweet, which he also suggested impeaching Roberts. This is from May 30th. He says, impeach John Roberts, who lied to America when he said he would not play politics or be an activist. This is a reminder of what is at stake in 2020. No more weak GOP court picks. Okay, wait, hold on for a second. So are you criticizing him because you feel that he's playing politics? Are you criticizing him because he's not playing politics hard enough for the GOP?
Bingo, that's exactly right. There's no disputing that. It's as clear as day in his own tweets. And he's like, he lied to the president and the Senate. No, he did the same thing everybody does when he goes up for confirmation. He says, I'm gonna call balls and strikes, etc. I thought he was lying, everybody thought he was lying, that he would just do whatever the Republicans wanted. And by the way, in 90% of the cases, he does. But he dares to disagree in about 10% of the cases. Impeach Roberts, because he's not doctrinarian. He won't let us steal elections. He actually believes in democracy. Impeach him. We want someone with no brain at all. Amy Coney Barrett apparently is perfect. Schlapp loves her. Suck her brain out, put in and say, hey, vote only with the Republican Party. That's it. Perfect zombie for the Supreme Court. And he says he acts like a politician. Wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. He's going against the party that nominated him in this rare instance. That would be the opposite of acting like a politician. On the other hand, Sam Alito, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh totally lied during their confirmation hearings. They vote almost every time with whatever the Republican position is, whatever the Trump position is. And I'll go further than anybody as usual. They're un-American. They don't believe in counting votes. What's more un-American than that? They hate democracy. And to be fair, Republican justices have hated democracy for a long time, including guys like Antonin Scalia, who stole the 2000 election and said, whatever you do not count votes. What do you think, this is a democracy? No, us Republicans love authoritarian government. We love fascism, we hate democracy. That's why we don't want you to count the votes. Those are facts. If they rule the other way, great, no problem. But if they rule that way with no foundation at all other than burn the votes, that's the definition of being un-American.
When we come back from the break, we'll share some details on what Trump supporters are planning to do to intimidate voters at the polls. We have some specific messages from their message boards. And you don't want to miss the postgame today. If you're not a member, please become one, because we have fantastic stories, including another edition of As the White House Turns, involving Donald Trump and Bill Barr. Come right back.
I'm old enough that I remember when Captain Crunch put the berries in there.
Yay, crunch berries!
And I was like, ooh, the fake berries.
Remember?
We're gonna try that.
We did a story back in the day about how a woman sued, I don't know, General Mills.
She'd been eating it for 4 years, believing that it was actual berries.
Yeah. She's like, these aren't real berries at all. Yeah. I'm like, I got news for you. Captain Crunch isn't really a captain or a person. Joining me now, legendary whistleblower and American hero, Edward Snowden. First question is, hey, where are you?
I'm in my apartment in Moscow.
All of a sudden, in the studio, Jim Gaffigan, everybody.
Mental illness is, completely undiagnosed in our society.
It's not about a particular administration. It's about a broken system of power, and through that, really, the instrumentalization of a system of not justice, but injustice.
People understand whether they claim to deny climate change or not. Our collective house is in crisis. We're also dealing with the legacy of 40 years of economic policies that have made people's lives more precarious.
Sometimes you got to force people into their humanity. Sometimes you have to shake people into empathy.
Senator Elizabeth Warren joins us in the studio.
Healthcare is a basic human right, and we are fighting for basic human rights.
In order to actually achieve that vision of everyone having access to the same resources and getting to determine the outcome of their life, we have a lot of work to do, and it needs to start right now.
Here's something you may not know. When you deposit your money in a big bank, it doesn't just sit, safe and secure, in a vault. Instead, your money could end up building oil pipelines, mining for coal, or drilling in the Arctic. So if you're concerned about the planet, give your money something good to do. Make the move to green with Aspiration's fossil fuel-free account and join the thousands each week who are switching to save their dollars and save the planet at the same time.
Cenk Uygur joins us.
We are progressive and unapologetically so. Very happy to say that millennial and Gen Z generations are massively progressive along with us. Lynn, do you support Donald Trump?
Yes, I like Donald Trump.
Well, that's why we think you're racist. The 5 black kids in Central Park did not commit the rape. He said, who cares? Keep them in prison anyway. They probably did something. He's a terrible guy. Very fine people on the side of chanting, Jews will not replace us. Called Latinos criminals and rapists.
The most important part is we've got to fix it. And fixing it means you have to acknowledge the problem. They don't value black lives. They don't value poor lives. And anyone who's against Black Lives Matter is a racist piece of crap, including Donald Trump and nearly every Republican politician in this country. You're a full-blown racist if you still don't believe it, and you still don't want any reform, and you still don't want any justice. ShopTYT.com now has books. One of them is Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People. That's a saying that AOC said, they've got money, we've got people. It's the best tracing of the AOC victory I've seen anywhere. It's the most accurate, and it's got great details. The book actually goes all the way back to Jesse Jackson and how he was the original Bernie Sanders. If you want to know how we're going to win going forward, those lessons are super important, and they're in Ryan's book. So check it out right now at ShopTYT.com.
We found the perfect person to lead the army, Allison Hartson.
The establishment media works hand in glove with our corporate legislators, and our corporate legislators work hand in glove with the corporation. And we're going to make it so that it's a decentralized force throughout the country, so that we can quickly identify stories, quickly identify troll farms, and go in and neutralize the enemy, and then start building responsible media throughout the country and on every platform available.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Remember, Old School is live next, and then we got the post game for members and all of Old School as well. TYT.com/join, or hit the join button below if you're watching on YouTube, as Big Brother Motown, Dean the Vegan, Nat A, Dana Darden, and Keneal Shaw just did. I'm gonna read one member comment here. Time Potato said, when Trump drained the swamp, at the bottom of it, he found Republicans And there was much rejoicing. That's funny. Leith Kristen Merrow says, thank you, Cenk and Anna, for everything you guys do. You keep it honest and for and by the people. Love/hate watching Trump beg for money. It's like when he begged women to like him. Yeah, that was good. That was it. Oh, please, women like me. A little too late for that. Keneal Shah then wrote in on Super Chat and said, chat. Anyway, so we need good for the earth companies to funnel a couple $1 million to the following. Biden's second term campaign, I don't know about that. 2028 progressive candidates, yes, et cetera, et cetera. No, look, aspiration is great in doing what they do and planting trees and not using putting your money in fossil fuel. Too Strong Coffee is awesome at getting money to Wolfpack, Just Democrats, Rebellion PAC. You buy 2 bags or more, they send some of the proceeds there, and TYT. But I don't want them bribing politicians. I don't want to do tit for tat on that at all. But meanwhile, twostrongcoffee.com/TYT gets you awesome tasting coffee that's progressive, organic, fair trade, and does help those groups. Last things on Twitch, we have a great audience there. I'm just gonna read some quick subs here. Coop DeJarnac, Pinker Bell, Pixie, Etham Tolga, Abinasa, Little Cake with Sprinkles, Bad Brandon 71, Moline 14, Alyssa's son, who wrote in Too Strong, love it, Alyssa, and Triskel 000. You guys are all the best. Anna.
All right. Well, as we know, Donald Trump supporters are looking to intimidate voters at in-person voting locations. And now we have more details based on how they're communicating to one another on publicly available chat forums. So these far-right groups on thedonald.win say things like this. Consider this polling station on lockdown, says David Gilbert, says one individual. That's what a member of the far-right message board, The Donald, posted this week alongside a picture of a South Carolina poll manager's handbook. David Gilbert is the Vice reporter who is reporting on this. Now, a comment on the same post also read, my polling place is gonna be like trying to enter North Korea, effing lockdown. I will be honoring the BLM movement by working in blackface. And by the way, this is the result of Trump calling on his supporters to be so-called poll watchers during the first debate. That was when he said it. And his campaign has been following up this rhetoric ever since. The Trump campaign has set up a website with the militaristic title Army for Trump, which is recruiting supporters for election day operations. So now members of the Donald are acting on cues from Trump. One member posted a picture of a reference guide for a voter service and polling center judge in Arapahoe County in Colorado with the caption, all your polling stations belong to us. A user called Linkinu posted a picture of a manual for poll workers in New York State, while another user posted a picture of an electronic poll book training manual. So basically, they're literally getting hired as poll workers as well. We've shared stories in the past of how the Trump administration, Trump campaign, I should say, is planning on hiring armed off-duty law enforcement to also serve as poll watchers. And so, listen, if you have the ability to vote by mail or vote ahead of time, vote early, do whatever you can, because as we can see from the actions being taken by Trump supporters, they're doing anything and everything they can to intimidate people from voting.
And don't, under any circumstances, let them intimidate you. Now, of course, we have a giant problem here, which is that this problem should be taken care of right away. You get the police on it, they protect the country and democracy, and they find out who these folks are, if they can. But most importantly, on the day of the election, they're on standby. Not the far-right militias, but the police are on standby to immediately go to polling stations, sort out problems so people don't wait in line, so they don't get intimidated. Because remember, the right wing doesn't have to win a fight at a polling station. They just have to create a fight. Once you create a fight and people are scared and they don't show up to vote, it's in Democratic areas or heavily Democratic areas, that's mission accomplished. So it is so important for the cops to be on top of that and to make sure that that does not happen under any circumstance. The problem is, oftentimes the cops are not on our sides. So there's a cop in one of these states who said, no, I'm not gonna do anything about it. Okay, that was in the Vice story. And 5 of the battleground states allow for people to walk into polling stations armed. So, and then the police, in that case, rightfully go, that's the law. There's nothing I can do about it. They could all walk in with weapons. They can't point it at people. They can't fire it. We hope the police would do something about that. But they could come in brandishing weapons and try to intimidate people. Gee, I wonder who's on the side of democracy and who's on the side of dictators and fascists. And these are the same little crybabies that said, oh, there was 2 Black Panthers at a polling station in one election in 2012 in Philadelphia. Oh my God, there was 2 black people. I was intimidated because they're black, right? Meanwhile, they come in heavily armed ahead of time telling you, oh, we're gonna try to intimidate you and block you from voting, including with our weapons. And there's barely anything done about it. The disparity in this country is mind-boggling and maddening.
Yeah, and one of the things, Jake, that really stands out to me is how they're under the impression that Democrats are trying to cheat. Donald Trump has burned through his campaign money. He's canceling ads all over the place. He's fallen behind in polling. I mean, Biden is leading nationally in the double digits. They're the ones who have tried to dismantle the post office and do a number of things to essentially get an edge in this upcoming general election. It's just pathetic that they think that Democrats are the ones who are trying to cheat here.
Yeah, so look, one of the quotes is saying, well, we got to do all this stuff, including being armed, because the Democrats are trying to steal the election. Look, guys, it's fascism 101 for them to put onto people what they themselves are doing. So there's so many things wrong with that. Anyways, we got to go, guys. An amazing post game, and Old School's here right now. So
no,
you don't have to go
post game is next, and then yeah, post game. That's next. We'll see you soon.